All right, Panther fans. So we got tonight, opening night, the home opener against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Looking forward to that. We'll see you on the stream tonight, starting at 6:30. Now, one thing that we have all been talking about since last year, really, is all of the contracts that the Panthers don't have for the 24-25 season. We've all got a million different ideas and all of that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to look at the numbers in depth to just give us a real clear as we can, as clear as mud, an idea of how much money are we actually going to have to sign these guys. So a couple of things before we get started. I'm not a capologist. I don't know every single in and out of the rules, okay? There were a couple of things that what I know about the cap is that the NHL is extraordinarily restrictive compared to the NHL or the NFL, because everything that I ask people, hey, can we do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? The answer in the NHL is no. Where in the NFL, basically, if the player and the team don't like the contract and they agree, they can rip it up, throw it in the garbage, restructure, save cap. They can do all sorts of things. In the NHL, you bought it, you own it. You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of, there's no good answers here, okay? I'm going to give not even so much as my suggestions, it's just some best and worst case scenarios. I'm just going to give you the truth, I guess is how I should put it. The truth as the numbers are. So for purposes of this exercise, the assumptions are that Bob and Ekblad stay. Spencer Knight is at the NHL level, and the salary cap is expected to be $87.5 million. Now, all of these numbers that I'm getting ready to give you, you know, it's give or take 50,000 here, 50,000 there, okay? We can't get into the pennies of it right now because too much can change. This is just the general way that it's going to go one way or another. So the forwards that we have signed for the 24-25 season: Barkov, Kachuk, Swaggy, Mr. Reinen, Bennett, Rodriguez, Saradov, and Smeskovich, Lockwood. Now, those are I put Lockwood there because he's on the roster right now, taking up a spot. Okay. I did not count Smeskovich. I keep getting his name wrong. I'm just going to call him Mackey. Either way, I go back and forth with it. I didn't count Mackey's number in my calculations. I did count Sordif. So one or two of those guys will be there next year, but I only counted one. And I counted Lockwood because he's a minimum wage guy and he's the 13th guy. So assuming we have a 13th forward next year. The only defensemen that we have signed next year are Ekblad and Mikkola. That's it. There are no other defensemen on the books for next season, okay? That's not good, okay? The Bills, to say he has his work cut out for him is an understatement. So the total salary commitments, $60 million, $214, $167. You see the Yandel hit. So the total hit is $61, $455, $834. So when you take out the pennies, that gives us $26 million plus or minus the pennies to spend. Now, before you get excited and start doing math in your head, time out here. $26 million. But remember, we've only got a couple of guys signed here, okay? So, in my opinion, the must contracts: Reinhart, Forsling, Montour, Lundell. I put Lomberg on there because I believe he's a core player. I know he's a fourth liner, but you can't lose Ryan Lomberg. He makes like $800,000. You bump him up to $1 million. You can't lose a guy like that who's a core character part of your team. So in my opinion, he belongs on this list. Now, the spots to fill. What I mean here is that these are the guys that are on the roster right now that don't have contracts for next season. Now, they're all not going to be back. These names can change. And I've got Larson, Mahura, Kulikov, Belinskis, Cousins, Lorentz, Stenlin. Now, in order to fill out a full roster next year, okay, you need 3 of those 4 defensemen. Okay, doesn't have to be all 3, but remember that's Mahura. Okay, that's Mahura on there. I don't even have him in the must-sign category. I haven't even in my calculations attributed him getting a raise right now. Okay, I'm going bare bones with the rest of the spots after the must contracts. The minimum cost to fill that is $7 million. And basically that's 7 minimum wage to $1 million or $1.2 million type of players. So, you could squeeze out, make it $6.5 million. It could bubble, to $8 million. So I put $7 million in there, but give or take some pennies, you're going to need about $7 million to fill out the rest of the roster. All right. Which now the money for those must contracts is $19 million. Okay. Now, on the following page, I'm going to lay out, I wouldn't say that this is my suggestion. It's an idea, it's a thought, but it'll give you some perspective on how this is going to need to work. There's your contracts. That equals $19 million. Now, Lomberg at $1 million is easy. If the rest of these deals are if you can get Forsling, Montour, Reinhart, and Lundell. Now, Lundell's an RFA, but you got to get all 4 of those guys together, and they all shake hands and say, I'm in, I want to stay, I want to win. I'm not going to go try and get what I can get on the open market, because all of those deals are less than they can get on the open market, especially Reinhart and Montour and Forsling probably too. Okay. Now, the reason I laid it out like this is everybody but Reinhart gets a raise, and Reinhart gets to stay the same, because now you can lay out Forsling, Montour, Reinhart at 5 apiece, but then you're going to tell Reinhart that everybody else gets a raise and he has to take less money. So if you go by the idea that Zito says, Sam, are you willing to stay from the money you're already making? I mean, he's scoring 35 goals a season. Asking a guy like that to take a pay cut, it's not optimal here. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Forsling is certainly worth more than 4.25. Montour is certainly worth more than 4.25, but that does represent a raise for those guys. Lundell, I think the $3 million is in the ballpark for a bridge contract for him. Okay, if you can get him, you tell Lundell, and this is something I talked about here. If you told Lundell, hey, look, we're going to give you a 2-year bridge, $3 million, maybe even 2.5 if you need to squeeze him really hard. And Lundell and Zito shake hands and say, when Bob's $10 million is gone off the books, I'll take care of you. We drafted the kid. So it's possible you might be able to work that out. But as you see here, okay, there's no way anybody's getting, in quotes, getting paid, and all of these guys are staying. Lomberg, you're going to give him $1 million. That's fine. Okay. But the rest of them, Forsling, Montour, Reinhart, Lundell, nobody is getting open market value if everybody is going to stay. And in my estimation, again, plus or minus pennies here, okay? I know the cap could be another $1 million higher. Something could happen with the trade where maybe we clear up a little bit of space. But I can only work with the numbers that we have right now. What this gives us is an illustration of you're not giving Forsling, Montour, and Reinhart market value unless. Now on the following page here, I have some ideas. One I realize won't work anyway. And then none of them are really good ideas. I want to preface the following slide by, I admit, none of these are good, optimal ideas that I really like to have. However, you must look at this from a business point of view. And if you jump ahead and read the whole thing before I get to it, you're going to start screaming at me. So just, here it comes. Here are the ideas. I've already crossed off the one that won't work. ways to save. I thought, hey, wait, if we keep Spencer in the AHL, but we only get like $1.5 million or something cap relief, and then you'd have to use that on the backup goalie like we always stole ours now. So I crossed that out. You could trade or buy out Bob or Ekblad. It's disgusting. I know it's horrible, but it might clear up enough space to keep all of those guys. You could run 12-6 like we did last year a lot of the time, where you don't have a 13th guy. Now, that's not going to free you up a lot of room, right? But it might be, you might be able to give Reinhart $7.5 million and give Forsling and Montour $5 million, right? We're squeezing pennies here. Now you see the last thing on the list. Now that is not something I want to do. I don't want to trade Carter Verhaeghe. However, considering the fact that we're really going to have to pick and choose between the guys that we have now, how the hell are we going to re-sign a 29-year-old 40-goal scorer who's probably going to be easy worth $8-9 million, right? 7, 8, 9. So where's that money coming from? I mean, you better pray that the cap goes up another $3 or $4 million, because he needs a contract before Bob's contract is up. Okay? So, I don't want to, but we could certainly get a first-round pick back for him. And if you cleared that space up, you put Samoskevich or Sordif, if one of those kids that I always talk about, you need the good young talent, right? If you pop one of those kids in there and he can do the job, he's not going to jump in and get 40 goals. I understand that. But, you can't keep all of your players all of the time. So as many times as I thought about trading Reinhart, when I was looking at everything and I was looking at the cap situation, I realized trading Verhaeghe is also a very real possibility, because if you did it like in the offseason, you give him this whole season, he plays, gives us whatever we got. Maybe we win, maybe we don't. But then you trade him in the offseason, you're still going to get good value for him because he's got another year on the contract. And that gives you basically all the money that you would need, give or take, again, some pennies, to make sure that Forsling, Montour, Lundell, Reinhart, and, Mahura is going to be due some kind of a raise. Okay. So you might be able to save 2 players by trading Verhaeghe. And if not, if you're screaming at me and say, oh my God, you can't do it. Number one, tell me how we're going to pay him when he's due for a contract, because he needs a contract before Bob's $10 million is up. So if you trade Verhaeghe, all right, not now, but after the season, you trade him after the season, you're going to get assets in return. It frees up enough money, okay, to probably keep all of the rest of the players that we want for the most part, okay? And, I mean, either Mackey or Sordif, especially if Verhaeghe's playing on that second line, right? If you got Reinhart, Barkov, and Rodriguez locked up as the first line, now you're talking about having Mackey or Sordif on that second line taking Verhaeghe's place. I hate to say it, but that might be the move that saves our ass. And he's an asset with a year left on the contract, and we would get something back. I don't know if we'd get a 1. We might get a 1. We'd probably only get a 1 from him if we traded him at the trade deadline. Okay? That's probably the only way we'd get a 1 for him. But we'd get assets back in return for Carter Verhaeghe. So bottom line is that you got to have about $19 million to sign those guys. Nobody's getting open market value unless everybody is willing to take less than market value. It's just the way it is. That didn't sound right how I said it, but I think you know what I meant. If you want to keep Carter Verhaeghe, despite what we think if we're going to be able to re-sign him, right? Because, what goes around comes around. If Reinhart, Forsling, and Montour all get together and say, we're willing to take less, then maybe Verhaeghe, when it's his turn, will say, I'm still willing to take less to keep the band together. Maybe that'll happen. But that's kind of wishing on a rainbow, and Radko Gudas isn't here. So you lose players. You lose players. And you always have to have those good young players. I don't like that we lost John Ludwig. That was disappointing. We lost him on waivers. He was a good young defenseman that might have had an opportunity here at some point. That sucks. So the development of Mackey and Sordif is going to be extremely important, because I just don't see how we keep all of the guys. And if you want to talk about complete hockey players, Zito and Maurice just basically traded Duclair for Rodriguez, a more offensive guy for a more complete player, and that might happen with Carter Verhaeghe. And you clean up that money. I hate to say it, right? I don't want to lose any of these guys, so don't take it that way. But business is business. I'm laughing because that's what I said in the video. Oh, geez. I might have done it again. That's what I said in the video about predicting the trade for Tkachuk with Huberdeau. I'm like, business is business, and Huberdeau's closing in on 30. It's my fault. My bad. If it happens, go ahead and just go back to this video and be like, you dumbass Jaws. But it only works if it's like a relationship. It only works if everybody's in. If everybody's in, Forsling, Montour, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Lundell, Mahura, if everybody's in with, I'll take less than market value to keep the team together, you can keep the team together. And it's just simple numbers, folks. All right. That's going to do it. I'm going to see you guys tonight. We'll be live at 6:30. Stream starts then. Games at 7. I can't wait to see the new banner. They're raising the new banner tonight. I talked about this on the podcast. They replaced the original 1996 banner with a new redesigned banner so it matches the newer banners that we've been putting up. Less than a fan of that, but if they put the old banner, the 1996 championship banner, if they put that old one with the die cut bottom with the cat and everything, if they put that somewhere in the arena where the fans can still see it, it's all right, whatever. I still don't like it, but we want everything to be uniform and all of that, so I'm not going to complain that the owners are military guys wanting everything uniform because of the way that they've treated this team. I'm just not going to complain about them. So it is what it is. All right, everybody, appreciate all support. 2 points.